All right. So yeah, hey guys. Yeah, my just a little introduction about myself. My name is Mayawa Samuel, and a Flutter developer. So today I'll be teaching seamless integration of block repository and data sources in Flutter application. So basically, I'll just be showing the concept of how to like structure your application with data source, repository, and block, right? So let me just share my screen. So uh, this window. All right, so let me just share my entire screen. It's like this is not okay. So yeah, can you guys see my screen, or can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see your screen.
Okay, I think that's the. Can you see it now?
Nah, nah. Okay, I can see
I
it. I
can
can
see
see
your
it.
screen.
I can see it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So as I said earlier, today I want to be taking this integrating block repository and data source. So today it'll just be like explanation of all everything and how to connect everything together. So we'll start with reviewing block, like a little review to block. If I'm guessing you guys might not have completed the block class, so I'll just do a little bit of review. I might do like very fast review, and we later on we move on to introduction to repository. Then we look at the service locator and also connecting the repository to the data source. And we also look at patterns and structure. And I can also show you like some of the app I'm building now or the project I'm working on now and the approach I follow, right? So it's you just get to see like a live example to it. So I was thinking of creating. Come in. Let me just make this thing stable. I was thinking of creating like a project and just walk you through the project, but I just feel it would be better if I do a code along, right? Just be writing the code as you guys are listening, and that will lead to better explanation. Okay, can you guys just give me 5 minutes? The power just went off. I'm coming. Um, so uh, all right, yeah. Sorry for that. Like the power just went off, so I'll be going to Figma. Where's Figma? Yeah. So basically, what I was saying before, I show you how to abstract repository and the structure and pattern. So first of all, start by creating a new project, which is it's a new window. Control R. Okay. What's a new project? We call this project suite. So this app. So the idea of this. Yeah, as it's creating, I'll just explain the idea of what I'm teaching. So the idea of this project is like we are trying to simulate Twitter, right? So we're trying to like simulate Twitter. You know, Twitter, you could post, you could see post, you could view profile and everything. So we're trying to like look at how to structure using that approach, using like looking at Twitter for example. So the first thing that I'll be going into is the block. And when this is created, I'll just create a block. So we start by creating the features. And there's the home page. We have the 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 home block. So let me just show you right. Yeah, it's like I've created something Hey, can you guys, is it legible enough? Like the project, is it legible enough? Or should I increase the font of this project, so you guys can see better? Mm-hmm.
I think you should increase the font, right?
All right.
It's very tiny.
Oh, okay. How about now? How about now?
Increase, 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 increase.
Oh, this one is
Okay,
too.
better. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So, uh, okay. I hope I'm able to cope with this kind of screen. But yeah, just cancel this. I think this is giving me issues. Yeah. So basically, I just want to introduce block. So in the home feature, we have the block. Okay. We have the block. Block folder. Have to try. We have the block. We also have the screens. The screens. Understand? In some applications, you have widgets, you have repository data source, you have domain. It depends on any way you want to structure it. There is no bad pattern or maybe good pattern or so. So it depends on where you want to structure the folder. So in this, I'll just create a simple block which start with, let's say, home block. So now basically this home block will just be displaying the list of tweets on the home page. Normally if you go into Twitter, right, you'd immediately you see all the tweets on the home page. So this home block will be displaying the tweets on the home page. So for the people that are just like that are just starting block, this is the way you create a block. You create you write a part of the state, which is home state. The analyzer is not working. It's the analyzer not working. Come on. Ah, okay, I think the analyzer started working. All right, so basically you create a state, an home block and home state, and you add Flutter block to your project, which is add dependency, which is Flutter block. Flutter block. So you could see that the Flutter block is added to the pub spector YAML. Yeah, you could see it now. It's added to the pub spector YAML. Run pub get and you should get Flutter block. So what you want to do now, I just don't want to waste time. I'll just copy my previous example and and yeah. So we have this. So now we can import Flutter block and yeah. So on block extend qubits. To create a block, you have to extend qubits, right? Or block instead. And this qubits will take in a state. You understand? We don't yet have the state, so we have to create a class which is the state, home state. Now you could see that this error has gone away, right? And now we need to write a constructor that calls super and give you the initial data, so you can just add a demo home state into this place. So basically we have a block. We have a block here. Understand? So a block is just a way to like structure your code. So a block involves state and a block involves states. Yeah. So I said I was going to teach about on tweets. So on the home page of the application, we should have something that gets tweets, right? So we want to like get the tweet from the data source, and we want to display it on the home page, right? So that's just what we want to do. So in this state, we can create a list, which is final list string. For now, it's still string, which is tweets. I'm just giving you guys like a brief example. This is not the main aim of this teaching of this class, right? Come here. Okay, yeah. So come here. We have the list of tweets, then we're passing into where's my code? All right. So const home state. This is the tweet. So now you can see that easily I've been able to create a block. Easily I've been able to create a block. Very, very simple. Like blocks are very, very simple to create. And now I can just write a method here and use it in the UI, right? So that's just the basics of creating a block. This is just the basic of creating a block. So in the UI, we'll do something like block to access the block. We'll just do something like block provided of context and everything. I guess we have been taught in the last class, so I wouldn't be going into all the stuff, right? So, but to the main stuff for today is next we'll be talking about repository, right? So first of all, let's just write the get function, which is void get tweet. So this function does what? It gets tweet. It gets the tweets, the list of tweets from API, and then when you get it, it's going to call copy with. So it's going to emit the home states of the tweet, right? Very, very simple. So when I start the application at first, I call get tweets in the init state. I call get tweet in the init state, and then the init state would emit a new state with the list of tweets, right? That's very, very simple. So now this approach is fine, but we can't be writing the whole function of the whole API function inside this place. So we need somewhere to write it. If you write, it's not bad to write an API function inside the block, right? But it's just that it makes it very unstructured. You understand? So we need somewhere to put it inside. That's where repository comes in. So what is a repository? A repository is an intermediary between the data source and maybe if your state management is Bloc, maybe Bloc or provider or Riverpod, anyone you choose to use. So a repository connects everything. All right. So come in, guys. Just give me a few minutes. All right. Yeah. So a repository. So yeah. Sorry for the stuff. So like this, a repository connects everything. If you look at this diagram now, you would see the connection, right? So we have the user interface, which speaks to the block. We speak to the repository. The repository is connected to the data source, and yeah, the data source gets the data from anywhere you want to get it from. So now let me just define it more. You have the user interface. You have the data source, which converts entity to model, and some people would like to create to entity in their project, in their application, and some people like to create both entity and model in the application. Some people would like to create model alone in the application. Whichever one would be fine. So now you convert from entity to model, And now the repository gets in the model, and the block can call multiple repository. Like in this instance, we can call tweet repository, and we can also call authentication repository. Let's assume this is tweets. So auth repository will return the model, tweet repository also return model, and we can do whatever we want with whatever we want in the block. We can do whatever we want in the block and convert it to a state. So now the user interface would listen to that state, right? When it listens to that state, it converts it to the UI. So now I listen to a state and I get the list of tweets. Now I can now show the user that this so person is tweeting this, and this person is tweeting this, and this person is tweeting this. So it's very, very simple. The whole connection is very, very simple. I hope you understand this analogy, but if you don't understand, I would be showing you, I'll be showing you some important stuff later on. So now, now, so the next thing that you say now is that, okay, I create a repository since I want to like get the tweet. You understand? Get the tweet from the home page. So I created a repository. So we in the home screen we have a folder called repository. All right. So repositories. So now let's create a tweet repository. So basically, what this tweet repository would do is just a class repository, a class tweet repository. Basically, what this tweet repository would do, it would get the tweets for a user. It can create a tweet, it can delete a tweet, it can update a tweet. You understand? So just anything that is similar, you group them together inside a similar repository. For example, if you create an auth repository now, you would know that it can do anything that is authentication. You understand? If you create a post repository, then it can do anything that is post. If you create a profile repository, then it can do anything that is user. So just group everything that needs to be done that a tweet can do. You understand? Just group everything together. So this repository would contain get tweet. So it will have method get tweet. Right? What's Copilot for? So string get tweet. All right. So it will have a method called get tweet. It will also have a method called post tweet. Like this one, you can post your own tweet. You could have a method called delete tweet. You can delete tweet. Also have methods called update tweet, right? So this repository is completed. You understand? So now we have the repository. And the repository post tweet to API, gets tweet from API. The repository connect. Just imagine there's an imaginary data source. Let's just imagine that there's an imaginary data source. Like data source. This can be like HTTP or anything. Data source dot get tweet, right? So let's just imagine we have something that calls the data source for now. We can call it. Then the data source would return this list of tweets. You understand? And now looking at the diagram, we can pass the tweet back to the block, and the block can now display it. So the approach would look like this. I'm making a mistake. All right. So the approach will look like this. We have final repository. This thing tweet repo is equals to tweet repository. We have the tweet repository. So yeah, I just want to give one disclaimer before I continue. There are some approaches that I will be personally doing that would be a bad approach. Then explain why you shouldn't use this kind of approach in your application. You understand? For example, this is a bad approach, like defining it here. It would not make your application testable, and if and this instance will, if you, in case you want to use this same tweet repo in another place, to be a different instance, to be a different thing entirely. You understand? So this is a bad approach, but I'll be coming into, yeah, the main reason why this is a bad approach. So yeah, so we can, instead of, we'll replace this comment with tweet repo dot get tweet. Understand? So now we can just do final tweet is equals to this, right? But you know, this is a future, and it's future is like something that, needs to be awaited for. Just that's the simplest definition. So you need to await the future. So it's something that doesn't complete immediately, that needs to, you need to wait for. So now you can easily do something like, you can easily emit the tweet. So now I just want to go through these basics. Like, I think I've been able to like show the basics of connecting block to repository. This is like the simplest thing I'll be taking today, right? So before I continue, if you don't understand, you could just drop the stuff in the chat, because I'm going on to more advanced stuff. So I don't want, if you miss this part, you might probably miss the advanced stuff, right? Yeah, let me just continue while I think Miriam can alert me if there's something. So yeah, basically what we have done so far is this. You open your Twitter, something that with the Twitter we are creating. You open your Twitter, in your init state, which is this, I'm coming. In your init state, this is a stateless widget, but if it's a stateful widget, in your init state, you run block.get tweet, right? Now the tweet loads for a particular second. Based on the knowledge of block you have in the last class, you can wrap your tweet page with a block builder, and then when everything completes, the emit right here, where's the emit? The emit right here would trigger that a new, like, some tweets have been added. So your application UI would refresh itself. And once it refresh, you can now display the list of tweets to the user. And that's just the basic concept of all this block and repository. So it's you getting data from data source and the way you display it to the user, right? So that's just the basic concept. So that's where we are now. But now you should remember that I said this approach is bad, right? It's not good for testing, and it's also not good for if you want to reuse this tweet stuff again. So the approach that a lot of people will be thinking in mind is dependency injection, injecting this stuff into this place, right? So we can easily easily inject it right here. So we can do something like this. So this is dependency injection. So you can just do this dot tweet repo. So this class doesn't have to worry about initializing the tweets, like the tweet repository. So I'll be passing the tweet repository into the home block. You understand? But now you ask that, okay, how will I pass it? Right? So let me just delete all these comments. It's confusing. So okay, yeah. So in the home page, I can do something like this. I can create a block, which is I can create a block right here, and then also create a new repository, which is final tweet repository, tweet repo. equals to tweet repository, right? And I can do something like this. Final, come, come. I can do something like this. Final home block. Home block is equals to this tweet repo, right? So this is how I can initialize it. This is one way I can initialize it. So if I want to use the tweet repo in somewhere else, I will have to do something like this. Let's say there's another block and it's not home block, it's something like notification block, and I want to use the tweet repository there. I would have to do something like that again, change this in this exact same place. But what if the I don't want to define the home block here, right? I want to define the home block in, let's say, the floating action button or something like that, or a custom widget I have. I want to define the home block deeper in the node. So I would have to be passing the tweet repo inside it, and which is not really a good pattern, right? Which is not really, which is like, is the code, it leads me to writing too much code. You understand? So that's why we need like service locator, right? Service locator using, the way I do service locating is using get it, right? So service locator is just a way to manage dependencies, right? To ensure that everything is loosely coupled and not coupled together. So with service locator, the pattern to add a service locator is this. You will need to like browse for the get it package. You see the get it Flutter. So when you go into the get it package, you would see, you see documentation. Documentation will put you through on everything, yeah, on how you should use it. Like there's a documentation on how you should use it. So to locate services, right? So, but now we won't be going through the documentation since I'll be explaining how it works. So first of all, you need to add the get it package to your project. So how do I explain it? So you need to add get it package to your project now. I'll add the get it package. I hope it's added already. Let me see. Why is it not added? Why is it not added? Come and shift P. Adopted progress. Shit. Come on, let me check my. Wait, can you guys hear me? It seems that this is not going. The data is not going. Okay. So, is it my data or this is not just adding? Okay, let me just. I'm coming. Come on, shift P. Start analysis server. Okay, come on, shift P. Adopt it. Let's say get it. All right, so we just added this manually. Let's just add it manually. So I'm looking to add a lot of dependencies. So come on, the pub API is not responding. All right, so let's just add it normally. We could add it normally instead. So we add the get it this dependency, and now with get it, we can easily like locate anything we want to locate, and we don't have to worry about coming. Sorry guys, like it's an API error right here. All right. Okay, so
Bros, so the person don't chop money.
which person?
The person where they shout for your background.
I'm like Gitman Jare.
Where your gate
I'm
man.
on fire with Mango Studio. Make I record one or two.
I don't know, it just dey disturb me. Me say you know the kind of song where I don't listen to for here. Oh, all right. So yeah. Okay, I had a bit of issue like the project doesn't use Flutter 3, right? And this one uses Flutter 3. So just to make things faster, I would go into my other application and copy all the dependencies so I don't face this issue. All right, so let me. Is it portfolio? I'm not for this. I'm coming. So I'm coming. This is to be hard to find. I'm coming. Let me just go into this one. FB call. All right, so this is it. It's call. Yeah, I'll copy everything just to make things faster. So. First of all, we need get it. We also need injectable, right? Injectable will make it like easier for you to like generate all the boilerplates that get it what you to write normally. So, for example, I don't think I've ever had a reason to write all the service like initialize service and everything with injectable. You understand? So injectable will make that possible. So the next thing we need to add is injectable generator. So for injectable to run, we need the injectable generator for it. So you can add that in the dev dependency since it won't be used in the production. So you can add that in the dev dependency. We also need build runner. We also need build runner. So this is it. So we need build runner. So if I once I get all those, I can now run. Stop. Good things. So I can now run Flutter pub get, so it gets everything. Let's be snappy about this time. Oh, shit. All right, I can now run Flutter build runner, so it gets all the dependencies. So yeah, just to explain. Right. So cool. All right, so it gets all the dependency. Now, how do you service locator? So just to recap, in case anybody doesn't, everybody, the person that wasn't around. So we decided to follow the dependency injection approach, right? But I said the dependency injection approach, it would sooner or later to start to cluster your apps such that you need to be passing it to everywhere you want to pass it, everywhere you want to use Twit repo. So you need to be passing it down through your widget, you understand, or use inherited widget, which is still like you locating it. So the better way is to use injectable, and to use injectable, you just need to write the annotation, which is injectable. You understand? To use injectable and get it. So injectable is used alongside get it to generate some boilerplates, and these are the boilerplates to generate. If I should show you this other project, so to generate this boilerplate, right? If you are not using injectable, you have to write this yourself, right? All this stuff yourself. You understand? So, but with injectable, you can can easily skip this process. It's not much, but when you start having a lot of services, you just need to use something that will make you faster. So just write injectable here. You can, I guess there are some configuration like lazy singleton. There's also singleton. So, but me, I prefer most times use lazy singleton or injectable, anyone. But yeah, so now once I've added this injectable to my repository, then I can run. I hope I get the Flutter, heavy Flutter run build, run build. I don't know if I can get the configure. So now you would just fire. Okay. Shit. Okay, let me just go and copy the code of online. Let me just see if I have this. Okay. Run build runner. Okay, FVM pub run. It's pub something pub run. All right, so it's FVM pub run build run build. Couldn't find package build run. Okay. All right. So come. Okay, you know what? Let me just try restarting this project. It's giving a lot of stupid errors that I don't want to happen. Close Windows, then restart. New window. Control Alt Tweet app. So it's going to initialize everything again. Yes. So okay. So now let me run the build runner again. It's not getting. It's not loading dependency. Perfect to YAML. Build runner is here now. All right, I think there's an issue with this project. Shit. My data, I think they said something like Bob can't connect. I'm coming. See my data. Okay, let me just put it here first. I don't know why this is just fucking up today.
They say you misspelled build.
What is it?
Go and check that. You misspelled build. Probably like the command you're trying to like put
Okay.
on your terminal, right? You should check it
Oh,
out.
So
Oh, see, you not put build very well. Thanks, Jonathan.
okay, yeah, I wouldn't have known to like I was just saying this my okay, so yeah, thank you. And all right, so but first of all, this won't work. The major reason is that we need to have created like a file before we can run it. So this is what we'll just do. I'll just copy this since we come in. I'll just copy this. Since we are running out of time, so I'll just copy this and yeah, you guys use it. So this is di. So we'll forget it. So now yeah, you just need to write something like this. There are different ways to write this, but I think I prefer this method. Understand? But the most important stuff is this injectable init. This injectable init. Once you write this annotation, it's going to generate a matching. It's going to generate the matching function like we saw in the other part. So I think I'll just hope this works now. Yes. All right. So you could see that it generates. Yeah, you could see that it generates a method, and now you can see that this tweet repository has been initialized. So it's very simple, just so very very simple. So now I can just import it. So now all errors have been fixed. So you can see it now. I have a service locator in my application. Now going back to, sorry for wasting you guys' time, but going back to what I was explaining before, this is now the improved version of what I'm doing. So instead of injecting it dependency using this dependency injection by passing it through here, I can just use get it instead of this. So I can do something like find now tweet repo is equals to di tweet repository, right? This I can do something like this. This is what I can do now. Anywhere I want to use this tweet repository, I can do something like this, and I keep getting this same instance everywhere. You understand? So you see, it saves time. You don't have to pass it, and now you could use it anywhere you want to use it, and you still get the same instance. So that's that on service locator. So service locator is more like you trying to get the same instance of it, and it's also what I'll just say. It also makes you able to test it properly. Like you can easily mock it and you can easily test it properly. Yeah. So moving on, we would be going on to the data source. Like all these things are very very simple, right? So you just need to create a data source, new folder, come in, data source, and just create a tweet data source. Very very simple. So tweet data source, like that. So now this data source can will be responsible for calling the API. Remember, I said you can call the API directly in this place. You can just call, you can do do call get tweet directly in this place. But the the idea of architecture is like making everything more decoupled from each other. You understand? So sometimes you see that when you call do.get, you want to undo error, you want to undo 503, all those 401 error and everything, or 400, you want to undo all those errors. But if you use this indirectly in this place, you would be handling the error every time you are calling the API. You understand? Which will be much more easier if you can just abstract it, and if you can just use it somewhere else. You understand? So as I was saying, you have a data source. But what me I like doing is that I have a data source. I create is either I create an API handler or I create API service. So the service is going to work in I think I'll just show you guys a simple demo. Do I have a demo? Oh yeah, where's my GitHub? So I don't even know which project. So yeah, as I was saying, the service will work in a way that it would undo all the errors that in an API there's get, put, patch, delete, post and everything. So it's going to undo all the error for me. So I don't need to be handling the error in multiple places, like all this 400 error, and it's going to give it throw it in a custom way. The error just returns a string, but now you can convert it to a model and just throw it. You understand? So now we have a data source now. I'll rush through the data source because of time. A lot I just want to teach source. Have the data source, and data source can also like get something, get to it to data source, can get to it. You understand? So this can have an API service. You understand? API service. The service will handle all the error that the DO will throw and convert it to my custom error. If you check, I think the project is for now. The main reason why I don't have it in my project is because of most of my project uses GraphQL. You understand? So GraphQL is kind of different from REST. So I don't think I need an API service for GraphQL. You understand? So yeah, but if I check Uh, shit. All right, let me just. I don't think I remember. So if I check this project, this is like 1 year ago. If I check this project, I would. I'm coming to the code. I'll leave. Sorry, leave. Okay, while it's still loading. So what I was saying is that now an API service can be getting the tweet. I wouldn't write the API service because that's not the whole point of this place. But just to show you, coming data layer. Uh, okay. So just to show you how this API service will work, is like an API handler. So you kind of write all the custom error you're trying to get, but this is not the way. This is not the way I'll do it currently, but it's similar. You kind of write all the custom error you can get, like 200 socket exception, format exception. You can log it and you can throw your own custom exception. So now you understand, instead of in your application, you understand what is what. You understand? You understand what is what. So that's just like a cleaner way to define it. So now in this data source, I can call API services dot get tweets, right? And it returns a tweet. And I am able to just do something like this API service, which is final tweet. And it gets the tweet. This one is going to return it in a map version. So I'll be able to like convert it to a model. All right. So now let me go to the major project. So this is, if you look at this project now, you see this is the project. It's just similar to what I explained. Well, this one has a model created. So I just want to explain the concept of model, right? So this one has a model created. So you can see now that when you call an API service, it returns a map. It returns a map normally, right? But now in your application, it's best practice that you never pass when you get a data and it returns a map. It's best practice that you never pass the map back to where it's coming from. Looking at this diagram, I get the a map from the data source, it's the best practice that I convert it immediately to a model. You understand? Before I pass it back to the repository. That way my data is more defined, and now I can easily just call model dot something instead of writing the string of the map, which is sometimes can lead to error. So as I was saying, you need to be creating models in your application. So you create a model. So for example, this tweet is a tweet model. Tweet model just defines the data. It can contain other model, which this one is user model, contains the name, the image, the username, and the tweet model contains the user, the tweets, and the image. Yeah, for example, if you look at a tweet now, you would see that the tweet should have like a user display picture. It should also have the content of the tweet, which is the tweet, and it also have like the maybe any image attached to it. You understand? That's exactly how you want to define this thing. So now if we go into the tweet repository, come in. Where is it? Okay, I just disappeared. So if we go into the tweet repository, we can easily call data source dot get tweet. You understand? And the data source dot get tweet will return a tweet model, which we would pass into the block, and the block will pass it into the user interface. So that's just the easier, like a very very easier way to do it. So because of time, I don't know when you guys need to close, but it's already an hour. I'll just be walking you through my most recent project and showing you how this works. You understand? So after that, then you're able to ask a question, and if you guys want like resources that I can send. So this is my most recent project, right? So it's to show the architecture I follow. So yeah, so just a simple walkthrough. You could see now I have the first thing that you notice that I have everything in a different package. You understand? And in the domain, I have the entities, I have the models, I also have the entities models. In the data layer, I also have the repository, and I have data source. You understand? So how is the repository structured? Same way I explained. So the repository is structured in this way. You understand? So now I can call get, I can call create, I can call update on the repository, and now I can get the data from the data source. If there's a remote data source here, I can just change it from, like, if the data is not present in the local data source, I get it from the remote data source. So as you can see, this is it. So yeah, so this is just a basic example of how everything should work in your application. So it's very simple. You just need to create all these classes for like an helper class. So now let me just show you like a basic block features. So you have a block. You can see the block has a create project, right? So instead of tweets, like maybe create tweet. So what it does is that I get the using get it, I get the repository, and now I'm able to like call repository.create, and then emit a success. If you check how the details is structured, you see that this is how the app details is structured, and I emit like a success that's been loaded, right? And in the UI, which is in the view, this is how I use it. So in the view, I had a block builder, and it listens for the app states, and the block builder is able to get the project list from the state. And now this project list, I use a grid view or a list view to build the project list. You understand? So it's quite simple. It's quite simple. If you follow this approach, you see that it's quite simple. So it's all about me getting from the repository, and the repository getting from the data source, and then it's returning, and then I'm using it in my user interface and displaying it. Very, very simple. Very, very, very simple. So yes, I think I don't just want to take a bit of time because I wanted to go into abstraction, right? Abstracting repository and why you need it. For example, you don't want, like, you're using Firebase now, and you don't want your app to be dependent on Firebase. You get, and you want to abstract Firebase away from it. So I was hoping to like teach that, but I think time is fast spent if there's no longer time for that again. So, but now you can see it's very, very simple. You have, I mean, you have the view. This is the view called block builder, right? And when I start the application, I call load project. So it's in the init state is loading the project. You get, and it's loading the project, and now from the repository, it gets all the project from the repository, and now the project is added. It emits a new state which is called project list. When it emits this, this is triggered again, and it rebuilds the screen. So it's very simple, you understand? So now when I'm working with the block, I don't need to worry about what happens in the repository. It's more like a black box, you understand? So I don't need to worry. So repository already function very fine. So I don't need to worry. You get, so that's just the whole idea of repository. So if you have any question or you just want to like a brief explanation on the abstraction, you could just signify. You understand? I think it's 8 already. So yeah. All right. So anybody that have question can just
Yo,
yeah.
thanks very much. I said thank you very much for this session.
Yeah.
Do we have questions? Oh, somebody has raised his hand.
Okay.
I Toyib.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
All right. Good evening.
Yeah, so um, I used to think that the reason why we have what's the name, state management packages is to get rid of stateful widgets, right? But
Okay.
from you say what?
Okay. Continue.
Yeah, so it's like not to prevent us from using stateful widgets. So why do we now like have to like, because what I understand is like I have to use a stateful widget with provider so that I can like call some functions in the block in the init state. So can you like clarify that part?
Oh, okay. It depends on the pattern you want to follow. Understand? Some people call it in the instance, maybe when the screen just loads, and some people just call it immediately that they are initializing the object. Like they can add like dot dot or load something, but there's not really a big issue using stateful widgets. Like the difference is not that much. The difference between stateful and stateless, like, yeah, it's not that much. So you could use it anytime you want. So state management is not to replace stateful widgets. You understand? So it's not to replace stateful widgets. State management is just to, now you want to work in team, is just to manage the project effectively. For example, when you are working in teams, right? So you need a pattern that everybody follows. Now, if a pattern that everybody follows, and when everybody follows it, the project is will kind of be structured. You know what to reveal. You know what to basically just know the approach to follow. You understand? So that's just it. Yeah, state management just kind of gives you like more structure to your code. You understand? So like it makes your code more testable. And now we're combining all this repository data source with state management. It also gives you like like you get to understand your code better. That's just it. That's just it. I hope I answered the question, or I hope I answered the question. Or you could just ask like if I don't if is it Abdul that asked it? Abdul, I think your mic is not. Your mic is still on mute. Is it Abdul that asked it? Yeah.
Abdul Kabir, he was one that asked.
Maybe
Okay.
yeah. His mic
Yeah,
is.
I hope that answered this question though, because
Oh, okay.
he's no longer in the meeting.
Yeah, yeah,
So Christian, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this tutorial. It's been really, really helpful, although I joined late. So my question goes like this. I have a bit of Android background, and there's some things that the framework takes care of for you, like the restoration of states. And there's a callback, the unsaved instance states that actually you can use to restore state in the application. But for Flutter, I recently found this restoration mixing, but the catch there is that you have to use it with a stateful widget. So in the so how do you handle this and still use your block integration? Um, because I've had this problem, or because I use provider and block and provider. Well, block uses provider, so I've had issues with actually restoring state and still use the provider, or let's say block architecture. So I don't know if you can shed more light on it. That state restoration with block or provider, as the case may be.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay. Um, using some kind of pattern, if you just want to restore the block state, right? If you put the block state above all your application, like block provider, then it's going to give the same block anytime you want it. And let me just show you a demo of this. So if you look at this, I'm coming. If you look at this project now, you'd see if I go into the main. Okay, so if I go into the main, I'm using navigator now. You can see that I'm putting the block provider above all the widgets, right? You understand? So this block provider I put it above all these widgets. You understand? Before I even put the screen itself. So this block provider, you get to have like a single instance, right? And depending on the way you architect your app, you can just, let's say the application queues, like let's say for example you navigate to another screen. When you come back, you still get the same data since it has not yet been disposed. You understand? Except the application dies, that's when all this will be disposed. You understand? And and there's also another concept, which is like maybe you are in a list view and you need to like restore. Though I don't use it that much. I think Flutter supports it, like maybe page buckets, all those kind of stuff. So that's also a different concept. Understand? But if you want to use a block provider, the best way is just to put it above all your put it above your widgets, right? And then it doesn't get disposed when you are disposing the screen. That's one. But if you want it to get, if you the block is linked to this screen and you want it to get disposed while disposing the screen, then you can just easily put it in that screen so it gets disposed. So as long as you follow this, as long as you put it above everything, then it won't get disposed. You understand? So you can easily just call coming in this widget page, you can easily just call block provider off and get the inherited stuff. You understand? And load it. Uh, I was not able to answer your question, like, or I should explain better.
Yeah, well, I've gotten more clarity, although not fully, but
Yeah.
I'm on my way. Thanks very much.
If you can put like the I'm answering based on the way I understand the question, right? Maybe you can restructure in another way, right? From the explanation I just said.
Yeah, you talked about this bucket stuff for states too, like in states. Yeah, that's the same, roughly the same idea with the state restoration mixing.
Okay.
So you actually create buckets, but you must make sure your application is actually aware that it's going to be restoring state. Then you have to create buckets for every of your states. But the only issue is that you must use it with states restoration mixing, which you can only use with a stateful widget. Now, and the what's it called now? It stores primitives as restoration. So, for example, if you want to store an integer, it has to be restorable integer. If you want to store a
Yeah.
string, it has to be restorable string. So now, normally you are in the states we are dealing with are normal, whether string or objects, normal like that. So, but now if you're using the restorable and you want to now use it with
Yeah.
what's it called with block now, that's where because in block you have to create your instances um in the block, right? So but you need to, but with the restoration mission you need to make sure that those states are exposed such that the Flutter can restore it when your app is killed in the background and you brought it back to the foreground. Like
Okay.
the Android framework kills your application, and you know,
Okay.
okay, the user goes back from the minimized application back to the application and wants to restore the state.
That,
Because if you don't do that, the state is going to be
yeah.
cleared and it's going to start from
Yeah.
initial state. So, but you
Yeah.
want to be able to restore the state. So, I was thinking of how we can do that and still use block. That was the
Oh,
whole point.
okay. Okay, I kind of get it. Maybe I think block provides something like hydrated block. I don't think I've checked it. I've used it before. Hydrated block.
Okay. So let
Yeah.
me ask directly, like, how do you now manage restoration? Like, if your application is killed in the background and you want to make sure the user's progress, for example, if it's a form they are filling and it's multiple pages, how do you make sure that the progress is saved and when you come back to your application, you can get that progress? The user can actually continue with what was doing.
All right. So I just think that maybe it's a bit. I think it's a bit too over. This thing. I kind of use local storage for some things. You understand? But for what you just mentioned now, I don't think local storage would be like the best way to implement it. You understand? You understand? But uh, I'm just trying to like look at the scenario that this will occur. You know, Android. If Android kills the application, then then it can successfully start from the beginning. I see apps that when it gets killed, when you open it again, maybe like Twitter self, when you open it again, then it starts again. You understand? So just I don't know. I don't actually what's the word? Like I don't actually fix this scenario itself. You understand? Except I'm doing something like a list view and I need to go away from the screen and come back, then I do it for list view. But for scenarios where Android kills the application, then for me, I'm just saying what I understand. I don't really try to restore it. You understand? Because and
Yeah.
yeah, I think in my own case, it might really happen. You understand? We don't really try to restore it in
Yeah, so it's not really a common case, but with phones with low memory, that for any reason Android can just go and kill the application and they start again. So yeah, well,
yeah,
it makes sense if you allow the application to actually restart and the user goes back again. It makes sense. But I'm
yeah,
just saying, just for that consistent user experience. But
yeah.
I sure I get.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
I understand what you said. If the user self will be aware because of when a lot of application are reacting the same way, the user will be aware that maybe his phone is low memory or something like that. I don't really like solve for that case. So is there anybody else? Thanks for that question.
Yeah. Jonathan. Abi, you're tired.
Yes, good evening. I'm not tired. I'm not tired.
Good evening.
Yes, my question was concerning the injectables. In
All
the
right.
injectables, I really didn't get that part, but I think it was because of network. I really didn't get the injectables part. The very way you copy the code after you like generated the code, is you copied it and imported it. That aspect
Oh,
I really didn't get. And also, I wanted to
uh-huh.
ask what are the resources someone can actually use to understand APIs? Because it seems from this project I just like showed us today, it seems the knowledge of APIs is actually very, very important. It's actually very, very key. Like, do you have any advice and
Oh, okay.
tips on understanding APIs generally as an abstract topic away from Flutter?
Oh,
Like, any
okay, away from
resources or
Flutter.
any advice? Yes, away from Flutter, just API as itself in understanding APIs, any resources or tips in understanding it.
Okay, all right. So
Okay. Okay.
for the first one, which is injectable, injectable is just like is it helps you generate like boilerplates. That's the first thing injectable does. You can use get it as a service sorry. You can use get it as a service locator and you get to write all the custom code yourself. You understand? But when you're using injectable, as long as you can, if I show you this again, as long as you add as long as when you add this annotation, so to use injectable, let me just explain the concept. You add this annotation injectable after you have added this package, all this package, injectable generator and injectable, you add this annotation which is injectable to your repository, right? So now what the injectable helps you do is that it helps you generate this config file. You could easily write this config file. You could easily write the config file, but injectable just helps you generate the boilerplate. And now in the and now what you just have to do before, okay, now this is the part you say you don't understand. This part you can copy it online. You get, so it's something that is constant. So just write final gi equals to get it or instance and configure dependency. Just write this. Then injectable helps you generate this init function. You understand? Injectable init, it helps you generate this init function. And in your main, before you start the application, you write configure dependency to run it. I think I forgot to explain that. So you write configure dependency to initialize get it. So what that helps is this. Now you can come on. Okay, all right. So now you can do something like this, which is gi and get the tweet repository, and you keep getting the same instance when you are using it. You understand? So basically, what injectable does is it helps you generate the boilerplate. You understand? Once you add the annotation here, then you get this config. You get this config. Okay, let me just try to add injectable here again and run it. So just so you see injectable. And now let me just run Flutter build runner. So I'll run build runner now. You see in the di config, I have data source. And now I can get the same instance of the data source anywhere. You get, so instead of writing this again, I can just use injectable to generate it. That's just first of it, injectable. And regarding the second question, which is knowledge of API. Knowledge of API is kind of important for me. For me, I use GraphQL most times because that's what we work with. But knowledge of API is really important. The resources you can use is you read on this deal. There's a package for that, and you read on deal. You download Postman just to see how API works normally. You understand? Just to see how the the whole concept of API, and you will see some free API online. They will tell you what to do, and you can run it on Postman. And when you run it on Postman, you can write the same code in Flutter just to practice, the same code in Flutter should return the same response. You get. So when you are printing it out, and what something extra you can do is that you could just try to read on how to convert what you get from the API to a model that you'll be using across your application. So all those things, if you there will be resources online, but I think I'm mayor on the group. So, but if you message me, then if I have any resource, then I'll just send. But yeah, for now, that's just what I still remember about. Yeah,
how can I message you?
I said I'm mayor on the group. Mayor, are you on the group?
Okay, Mayo. Okay, okay. Yes, I'm on the group. I'll look. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you
So
very
if
much.
I have any that's if I have any resources, I'll just all right, all right, no issues. So any yeah, someone said Jason Placeholder, yes. So any other questions?
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Well, I don't think there is any other question. But thank you so much. This call was very, very nice. It was very, very cool. It was very, very interactive. It was very, very, mind blowing and everything. By the way, today our winner is I say our winner. Well, I did not say we're going to give anybody anything, but then I noticed that all our classes, this boy has been coming very early. Jonathan, sorry, I call you boy. Ah, sorry, boss. Oh. This boss has been coming very early.
I'm
Jonathan, he's always like if I enter that call, if I enter call like where it's 20 minutes to the
thank you.
class, I would have seen him joining the
Yeah, I
class.
just enjoy. It's
He's
just
always very
private.
early. So
Thank
please
you.
message me on WhatsApp. Thank you very
Okay, no
much.
problem. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah.
It might be your turn another time, oh, so come early.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Okay. It was Jonathan. It was you that asked API
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah, yeah.